And Jing locked herself in a small room, prayed devoutly, then calmed her mind and shook the coins to cast a hexagram. After a while, she walked into the conference room and handed An Yi a sheet of paper. On it was drawn an I Ching hexagram, with the character Can scrawled unevenly in Chinese. Zhang Jiwen, short but solidly built, immediately stepped beside An Yi to examine the hexagram. When he saw how poorly the character Can was written, he couldn't help feeling skeptical. A nun raised in America, barely able to write legible Chinese characters, using the ancient Chinese Zhouyi to divine. It felt deeply awkward. He asked cautiously, "Sister Jing, is this really the character Can?" And Jing instantly frowned, clearly offended by his bluntness. And Yi smiled gently and said, "Yes, it's Can. Sister Jing grew up in America and rarely writes Chinese, so her handwriting isn't neat. But Mr. Zhang, you can trust her. She has extraordinary talent in Yi divination. Sister Jing, please explain the reading for everyone." This divination was specifically for tracking down Maslama. Neither Singapore's Ministry of Defense nor Interpol had managed to capture him, yet he remained Southeast Asia's most dangerous terrorist. With no other options left, they turned to the I Ching. Fortunately, Singapore had always embraced a pragmatic and open-minded culture. Any useful method, no matter how unconventional, was worth considering. And Jing walked to the whiteboard, picked up a marker and drew a large Can hexagram so everyone could see clearly. She tapped 2 dots, one above and one below the hexagram, and said, "This is the Shi Can hexagram. The upper trigram represents water, and the lower trigram also represents water. Can is an ominous hexagram, associated with thieves and danger. Casting this thief hexagram undoubtedly points to Maslama's whereabouts. Can corresponds to the north, so first and foremost, Maslama must be somewhere north of Singapore." Several staff officers leaned back in their chairs, visibly impatient. North of Singapore was Malaysia. They'd already received intelligence placing Maslama there. What they needed was a more precise location. Noticing their expressions, and Jing paused, almost ready to stop. But An Yi gave her an encouraging nod, so she continued. In classical Chinese, Shi implies repetition or doubling. Thus, Shi Kan means 2 Kan hexagrams stacked, one on top of the other. Can embodies the strongest water energy, so Maslama's hiding place must be near a river or the sea, most likely. He's on a boat, or possibly even underwater. A soft ripple of laughter spread through the room. The officers all knew how astronomically expensive it was to build a submarine. There was no way Islamic terrorists could pull off such a stunt. Zhang Jiwen, who had personally arranged for the Feng Shui experts' involvement, didn't dare mock An Jing. He subtly gestured for the officers to quiet down, then turned to her and said, "Sister Jing, based on your interpretation, our task isn't too difficult. We can simply blockade all vessels in the Johor Strait. However, there are also several major rivers on the Malay Peninsula. If we had a distance estimate, we could expand our search accordingly. What do you think?" And Jing replied decisively, "Can belongs to the water element in the 5 phases. Since both trigrams are identical, and water has cohesive properties, the distance won't be great. Taking the outer trigram as the numerical indicator, it should be within 60 kilometers. A map appeared on the projection screen. One of the staff officers drew a 60-kilometer radius fan-shaped zone north of Singapore and remarked, "That narrows the northern water area significantly. Still, there are several large river bends inland in Johor. We'll need to send agents to investigate those spots." Zhang Jiwen nodded. "That's manageable. Sister Jing, can you determine what they're planning to do and when they'll strike?" Seeing Zhang Jiwen's respectful tone, and Jing grew more confident. She drew another hexagram next to the Can hexagram and explained, "These answers lie within the hexagram itself. From the middle lines of Can, we can extract the Yi hexagram. Look, the shape resembles a person with mouth wide open. Yi symbolizes abundant food, chewing, and anything cave-like. Given that Yi emerges from within Can, it strongly suggests they're hiding in an underwater cave, fully stocked with food and equipment." The officers stared blankly, utterly lost. First, she claimed terrorists were underwater, already hard to believe. Now she was saying there were habitable caves beneath the sea. Even if such caves existed, how could anyone possibly find them? But An Jing paid no mind to their doubts. In Yi divination, the most crucial principle was to interpret the hexagram objectively, without personal bias. Subjective assumptions would only lead to self-deception. She pressed on with her logic. The Yi hexagram consists of mountain above and thunder below. Literally, this means thunder beneath a mountain. Thunder signifies electricity and vibration. So Maslama's goal is most likely to detonate explosives inside a mountain cave. And if there's a city within 60 kilometers, the explosion could target the base of a skyscraper. Now the officers were completely baffled. Just moments ago they were talking about underwater caves. How did they suddenly jump to skyscrapers? Were they planning to blow up a building underwater? Zhang Jiwen glanced questioningly at An Yi, but she pretended not to notice, offering only a supportive look to An Jing, urging her to continue. Can is a 6-clash hexagram, where the 5 phases collide chaotically. This indicates swift action, no delay. Adding the numbers of the upper and lower trigrams gives 12. They will strike in 12 days. Tension filled the room. 12 days was far too short. Not only was the 60-kilometer zone vast and mostly aquatic, but any operation would require cross-border coordination, risking diplomatic friction with Malaysia. One officer chuckled politely and asked, Sister Jing, I'm still unclear about the hiding place. Are they in an underwater cave, or in a building near water? And Jing studied her drawn hexagrams again and stated firmly, underwater. Are there any underwater facilities in this area? The officers shook their heads, smiling skeptically. Zhang Jiwen said, in any case, we'll monitor both surface and subsurface waters closely. Thank you both for your help. I'd like you to stay in Singapore for these 12 days, but for your safety, please refrain from sightseeing. Once the mission is complete, I'll personally show you around Lion City and treat you as honored guests. After escorting them back to their secured hotel, Zhang Jiwen left. The moment Jing closed the hotel room door, she pouted and whined tearfully. Miss and Yi, they don't believe my reading. I don't want to attend any more meetings with them. And Yi affectionately placed a hand on her shoulder and chided gently. Oh dear, you're all grown up and still throwing tantrums? Heh, I think your interpretation was excellent. It's just that the terrain reflected in the hexagram is too complex. They can't immediately match it to real locations. But I'm certain you'll be proven right in the end. Singapore sits on the southern dragon acupoint of Asia. If disaster strikes here, the entire Southeast Asia suffers. God sent you here to protect this place. How can you refuse to help? Be good now. New York's early summer was cool and sunny. And Lang and Li Xiaoxian walked up to the steps of City Hall, just behind Wall Street. This spot marked the Brooklyn Bridge exit, a must-see landmark for tourists. The 1,800-meter suspension bridge had instantly set 2 world records the day it opened. The longest suspension bridge in the world at the time, and the first steel wire suspension bridge ever built. Hailed as an architectural marvel of the Industrial Revolution, its century-plus history made it one of New York's most iconic landmarks, and the crown jewel of the city skyline. This year marked the 125th anniversary of the Brooklyn Bridge, and the city had organized 5 straight days of celebrations. The plaza beneath City Hall teemed with people. Vendors and street performers packed the small square by the bridge entrance. A temporary stage had been erected underneath, and the Brooklyn Music Ensemble played passionately. There would be a grand fireworks display that evening too. Of course, among the crowd were ice cream trucks, their cheerful children's tunes tinkling through speakers to lure customers. Holding Li Xiaoqian's hand, and Liang pushed through the throng into the event area. From afar they heard booming symphonic music that clashed wildly with the festive atmosphere. It was unmistakably Liu Zhongtang's signature tune for his ice cream truck. Following the sound, they spotted the truck adorned with 4 giant ice cream cone models. Its sides were painted with colorful illustrations of various ice cream flavors and slogans in English, Italian, and Spanish. Both side windows were flung open to form serving counters, but strangely, an invisible circle seemed drawn around the vehicle. No tourists lingered or bought anything. And Liang stepped right into that eerie empty zone. Outside the circle, several children clutched crumpled bills in their hands, eyeing the ice cream truck with nervous tension. Behind the serving window stood Liu Zhongtang, his tall frame casting a human-shaped shadow against the bright backdrop. Sunlight carved sharp contrasts across his face. His thick, arched eyebrows looked fierce, his phoenix eyes half-lidded, and his smooth, square jaw radiated quiet strength. Yet even he appeared tense as he stared back at the group of kids. A cool breeze swept through, scattering a few stray leaves from the towering elm trees, and suddenly, the whole scene bristled with an almost palpable aura of menace. Kuko crouched behind the truck door like a motionless plush puppy, staring fixedly at the children alongside Liu Zhongtang. And Liang watched as the kids shoved all their money into the hands of a brown-haired little girl and gave her a gentle nudge forward. She began inching slowly toward the ice cream truck. Li Xiaoxian halted and whispered to Enlang, "What's going on? Are they about to duel?" Enlang stopped too, curious to see what Liu Zhongtang was up to. The girl swallowed hard, shuffling closer until she stood before him. Trembling, she raised the money high above her head and offered it to Liu Zhongtang. Grinning through gritted teeth, he asked cheerfully, "Miss, what flavor would you like?" Her arms still stretched skyward, the girl burst into loud, heart-wrenching sobs the moment Liu Zhongtang smiled. Startled, he instantly wiped the grin off his face and jumped down from the truck to comfort her. Everyone knew how this could look if her parents saw this. They'd assume he'd bullied her. Worse yet, since she was a young girl, it could spiral into an indecent assault scandal. Exhausted newspapers, already battered by presidential election drama and the subprime mortgage crisis, would leap at a headline like, "Middle-aged Chinese man suspected of harassing Hispanic girl." The moment the girl saw Liu Zhongtang step down, she shrieked and bolted back toward her friends, but the other kids scattered even faster, vanishing in a blur like startled rabbits. Liu Zhongtang chased after them for a few steps, but came up empty-handed. He stood alone in the now deserted space, gazing mournfully upward at the sunlight filtering through the tall elms. And Liang nearly doubled over laughing, tears welling in his eyes. Li Xiaoxian walked up to Liu Zhongtang's serving window and said, "Boss, 2 ice creams, please." Liu Zhongtang snapped out of his daze and hurried back to welcome them aboard. "No need to pay. Come on, have one each, my treat." And Liang took his cone and kept staring at Liu Zhongtang's face, grinning the whole time, which only made Liu Zhongtang more irritated. He knew exactly what Liang found so funny and grumbled defensively. "What's so funny? It's just that there are lots of kids today. If it were adults coming from tennis or soccer matches, my stock would sell out the second I parked." Still chuckling, and Liang teased, "If I were a kid, I wouldn't dare come near you either. You're the white paper fan of Hongmen, their official Feng Shui master. Didn't you calculate your position before setting up shop? I did check the date and direction. Even cast a Chimendunja chart." "Oh, Chimendunja. Ah. Liang widened his eyes in mock admiration. Liu Zhongtang sighed glumly. But the date clashed with my personal Bazian auspicious deity. When I left from the Kimen Dunjia auspicious direction, my car blew a tire passing by the funeral home. After fixing it, I arrived here only to find someone had already taken the best spot. Li Xiaoshen turned to Liu Zhongtang and said warmly, "Big brother Liu, you didn't miscalculate at all. You've got serious matters to discuss today. Let me handle sales. I'll sell every last one for you." She switched the dramatic symphony to lively Latin radio music, grabbed a handful of chicken jerky from Liu Zhongtang, and started an impromptu mini-circus act with Kuko right in front of the truck. Kuko, who'd been waiting ages for someone to play with, bounced excitedly. Li Xiaoshen stood beside the truck, hands clasped behind her back, and began dancing the Colombian bambuco dance with graceful, energetic footwork. Though wearing a long skirt, she performed the traditionally male steps with flair. Her long hair spun and flew in the sunlight, creating a captivating sight. Kuko darted between her feet, tongue lolling out happily, while Li Xiaoshen occasionally dropped to her knees, so Kuko could leap over her arms. They twirled together in playful circles, quickly drawing crowds of parents and children. After a while, Li Xiaoshen hopped back onto the truck to start selling ice cream. Kids who bought treats got to pet Kuko's fluffy beard, and sales shot through the roof. Liu Zhongtang and An Liang settled into the front seats of the truck. Glancing back at the bustling scene, Liu Zhongtang let out a deep sigh. Sigh. Truly a hero with no battlefield. How come you two look so tanned and thin? Especially Xiaoxian, you've lost so much weight. It's nothing. We just finished a global Feng Shui field trip all remote, impoverished places. Weren't you teaching Chinese? Couldn't your school help move this inventory? Federal law prohibits parolees from teaching. And besides, it's not right to keep dumping stock on our Hongmen brothers. I need to show clean books something presentable for my parole officer, so what brings you here? And Liang recounted everything, how Elena had enlisted Daniel to run a hedge fund operation, and how Singapore might face a terrorist attack. As soon as Liu Zhongtang heard it, he immediately said, "You should have told me sooner. I could have helped, even if my skills aren't top tier. More hands make lighter work, and we've got plenty of Hongmen brothers. Now it's clear the cat wants to wreck the whole system. If they succeed, ordinary people will suffer most, inflation soaring, unemployment rising, they're profiting directly from the sweat and blood of the masses. Hongmen was founded to overthrow imperial tyranny. Today's Hongmen won't let these scoundrels get away with it. You really understand the cause and effect relationships in economics? I'm honestly a bit surprised. I read newspapers. The subprime crisis has been going on for so long, and the news talks about it every day. We've picked up a thing or two. Anyway, if Cat wants to target Singapore, that means targeting ethnic Chinese. Hongmen won't stand by and do nothing." And Liang heard the back of the van as noisy as a kindergarten letting out for the day. He glanced back and saw Li Xiaoshen was already overwhelmed with collecting money. He immediately jumped to the rear to help her and leaned forward toward Liu Zhongtang, saying, "You're having zero luck with money today, just stay seated and don't come over to ruin things. I came to you for help. When I got back to the Feng Shui office, Dada had already been gone for over 10 days. I called him, and he said the hedge fund's preliminary work has started, so he's moved to Wall Street plus company policy forbids disclosing his workplace." Without hesitation, Liu Zhongtang replied, "There's definitely something fishy going on," holding a wad of small bills in his hand, and Liang said, "Of course. Right now our priority is to find Dada. Do you have any brothers running street-level businesses near Wall Street? Ask them to track down the hedge fund's address." "Sure. If we locate Dada, we can strike at the hedge fund's Feng Shui. We'll coordinate here with Singapore's Sovereign Wealth Fund. That should be enough to stop this attack. I'll donate my consulting fee to Hongmen for promoting Chinese language education. I'll also go see Elena to learn more." Liu Zhongtang answered briskly, "Fine, no problem. If I weren't tied up with other matters, I'd have definitely joined you last time to hit Wells Bank. I'm certainly more useful than Xiao Yu." "Oh, come on, can you even make liquid explosives? Do you know how to neutralize liquid nitrogen?" Liu Zhongtang couldn't do any of that. He looked sullenly at An Liang, who quickly grinned and added, "Just kidding, but Sister Jing didn't go to Germany and you." "Ah, ha ha ha." Liu Zhongtang chuckled awkwardly. "Don't say that. Helping our own people counts wherever you are. How's Miss Yi doing lately?" An Liang paused what he was doing, leaned close to Liu Zhongtang's face, pointed his chin at him, and spoke in the tone of a CIA interrogator. "Are you asking about Miss Yi?" Liu Zhongtang blinked, hesitated for a second, then burst into laughter. "Ha, of course, I deeply respect my elders, your eyes are practically crossing." And Liang pulled back, resumed collecting and giving change, and said to Liu Zhongtang, "We just got back from Singapore with Sister Jing." He heavily emphasized Sister Jing, then turned around and stared intently at Liu Zhongtang's face. Liu Zhongtang's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly. "Good that the two of you went together safer that way. Hey, collect the money." In less than an hour, the ice cream van sold out its entire stock. Li Xiaoshen closed the service window happily and started counting the cash. "Selling stuff is really fun, Liang. Let's help Brother Liu sell ice cream whenever we have free time." Liu Zhongtang chuckled self-deprecatingly. "Hee, in a few months I'll finish my sentence. After that, I won't be selling this kind of thing anymore. I've got plenty of company business to handle. Right now, I'm only doing this to show the government. If you like it, just take over the license and use this van for fun. It's got great performance, strong engine, and lots of hidden gadgets." And Liang scoffed. "You think we don't have our own business to run?" Soon, Xiaoshen and I will launch an English-language Feng Shui magazine to promote Chinese culture. Who has time for toys like this, right? Xiaoshen, Xiaoshen. They noticed the back of the van had gone silent. Turning around, they saw Li Xiaoshen slumped motionless on the small swivel stool, leaning against the counter. And Liang panicked, leaped to the back, and lifted her up gently. Xiaoshen, Xiaoshen, are you asleep? Xiaoshen. Li Xiaoshen's face was ashen, her breathing faint. Liu Zhongtang immediately checked her pulse, while Liang examined her pupils. Pupils dilated, slow weak, cold pulse. And Liang grew frantic. Holding Li Xiaoshen tightly, he shouted anxiously at Liu Zhongtang, "What are you talking about?" Liu Zhongtang jumped into the driver's seat, started the engine, and sped toward the nearest hospital. Swerving out of the small plaza, he yelled, "Lay her flat and keep her warm. Her pulse is below 60 beats per minute. This is caused by severe yang deficiency and sluggish blood circulation. Strange. She was just dancing moments ago. How could she have a slow pulse normally?" People's heart rates speed up after dancing. Afraid the van floor might be too cold. And Liang lay down himself, cradled Li Xiaoshen in his arms, and draped his jacket over her. After a few bumps on the road, Li Xiaoshen slowly regained consciousness, and Liang visibly relaxed and whispered tenderly, "Don't move, we're going to the hospital. You'll be fine soon." Li Xiaoshen struggled to sit up. "Liang, no need for the hospital. I'm okay." And Liang held her head against his chest. "I've wanted to take you for a checkup for a long time. This time we're definitely going just a simple exam, no injections." Hearing in Liang's clumsy attempt to coax her, Li Xiaoshen couldn't help but smile. She slowly propped herself up and said, "I've been on planes for 2 months. The jet lag hasn't settled yet. I'm probably just exhausted." "Liang, please. I really don't want to go to the hospital. I won't go in." Seeing her firm expression, An Liang realized she likely wouldn't step out of the car even if they reached the hospital entrance. She must have some unspoken worry. Forcing her now would only make things worse. Better to let her rest first, then gently unravel whatever burden she carried. So he said to Liu Zhongtang, "Ice cream guy, skip the hospital for now. Please take us home." An Liang gently laid Li Xiaoshen on the bed, handed her a cup of warm water, and sat quietly beside her. Sunlight slanted through the window, falling softly on Li Xiaoshen's face. She gazed peacefully at the rose on the desk before her, slowly cooled the water in her cup, took a sip, and murmured, "So delicious, I can actually taste it, so good." An Liang didn't understand what she meant. He shifted his gaze nervously from her face to his hands, then back to her eyes. Uneasily, he asked, "Are you feeling better? Do you want to talk to me?" Li Xiaoshen kept smiling as she finished the water and handed the cup to An Liang. As he reached for it, her wrist twisted sharply, the glass slipped past his palm, struck his forearm and shattered on the floor. The sound was jarringly sharp, chilling the air, and Liang never expected such an action from her. Caught off guard, he failed to catch the cup, but Li Xiaoshen suddenly seized both his hands. "Liang, how many cups are there in this room?" "Huh? 4, why? Do you know what will happen to the next cup?" And Liang stared almost fearfully at Li Xiaoshen's smile, utterly bewildered. "What do you mean? It'll just sit on the table, right?" Li Xiaoshen pulled An Liang to sit on the edge of the bed, then leaned against his chest and said, "Liang, every cup will eventually end up broken. Nothing in this world truly exists forever. It all returns to emptiness. Liang, there was no us in the past, and there won't be an us in the future. We'll all leave this world someday, right?" And Liang sensed the gravity of her words. His brows furrowed tightly, as if bracing himself for a riddle with an answer he couldn't possibly accept. "Xiaoxian, what are you trying to say?" Li Xiaoxian rubbed the back of her head gently against his chest and said, "I'm going to die soon after I'm gone. Don't miss me for too long. In these final days you've given me happiness and joy beyond compare, something no amount of anything could ever buy. Is your heartbeat speeding up? Don't be nervous. You're a Feng Shui master who sees through the illusions of life and death. You'll understand what I'm saying. Just listen." And Liang held Li Xiaoshen's soft, warm body close. Her champagne gold hair carried a delicate feminine scent. The sudden razor-sharp topic sliced through their quiet intimacy, leaving him utterly at a loss. He tightened his arms around her, pulling her closer, then lowered his head to whisper into her ear, "Don't be afraid. No matter what it is, tell me. We're not two people, we're one." I'm not afraid at all right now. I feel braver than I've ever been in my whole life." Li Xiaoshen smiled and nodded. "I know we're one. From the very first moment I saw you, I felt it. My training taught me never to trust feelings, only logic and self-interest reveal truth. But the instant I laid eyes on you, that feeling was right. I've been so happy, Liang. I'm sorry. When I was treated for my gunshot wound 6 months ago, they found out I already had late-stage brain cancer." And Liang's mind flashed back to that evening months ago when he'd reunited with Li Xiaoshen at the party. Nearly 100 girls had been strangely, overwhelmingly sad that night. Was that why? Did all the angels know back then? Yes. It was a major revelation. We immediately informed every surviving angel. Back in the training camp, we'd always noticed none of the angels ever lived past 25. We assumed they died on missions or were executed for breaking rules. But later we learned the truth. Normally we could only get treatment at the base hospital, but after I was shot in Frankfurt, the European division took me to a civilian hospital. During a full-body scan, the doctor revealed the truth. The chips implanted in our brains constantly emit and receive radio waves, which aggressively trigger cancer cell growth. If the chip is implanted at 16, surviving to 22 is already lucky. That's why Snow and I are the only ones in our cohort who've lived this long. And Liang asked urgently, so all the angels will die? That can't be. There must be a way to treat this. Liang, I know you're kind. You don't want me to die and you don't want any of the angels to die either. But please let me finish. By the time I found out 6 months ago, it was already late stage. There are no recorded cures for brain cancer at this point. Even with surgery, survival lasts only about 2 months, which means even if I went under the knife today, I'd have at most 2 more months. In truth, my tumor is too large and too deep. No surgeon dares operate, but the younger angels are different. They're younger than Snow and me, and their chips were implanted more recently, so their tumors are smaller, or haven't even turned malignant yet. Most of them can still have the chips removed along with the tumors, eliminating the threat of brain cancer entirely. And Liang couldn't accept this fate. This was the first time in his life he'd truly known love, and he'd give everything he owned just to keep Li Xiaoxian with him. Muttering incoherently, he fumbled for his phone. American medical technology is so advanced, there has to be a way. You look up top brain cancer specialists online. I'll call them right now. I have a friend who's a neurosurgeon. See, I have his number. He's kind, highly skilled. He can save you. Li Xiaoxian suddenly rolled over in his arms, pinning him to the bed. She wrapped both hands around his neck and said, Okay. All the angels have already tried everything. I know the full story of this brain cancer, Liang. You'll grant me the dignity to choose how I leave, won't you? We cannot choose how we're born, but at least we should be allowed to choose how we die. Faced with the weight of her dignity, and Liang lay frozen, unable to move. Is there really no hope? If there's anything you can't do alone, we'll do it together. Specialists somewhere, new drugs, experimental treatments? Li Xiaoxian pressed her face close to his, kissing his nose, his eyes. Liang, we've tried every possible chance. We're angels, we never act alone. But late-stage brain cancer simply can't be cured. This is my life, and I've done everything I could. Do you know, I've exhausted every option. I even spoke directly with scientists in Britain developing the newest gene therapy for brain cancer. But nothing could stop the tumor from spreading. So I chose to spend every last second with you. And Liang held her with one hand, while dialing with the other, still murmuring desperately, Don't give up. There's got to be a way. Stop. Li Xiaoxian snatched the phone from his hand. Propping herself up, she looked down at him with tender eyes and said softly, We're angels. If we couldn't solve it, one phone call won't fix it. The ones who still have a chance will get treatment and live full lives. But it's too late for me. Right now, no brain cancer treatment in the world works. Those so-called new drugs only extend life slightly. They don't cure. Any treatment means lying in bed, taking pills, undergoing craniotomy and chemotherapy. Dragging out 2 miserable months until your body turns to mud. I don't want to say goodbye to you bald, covered in IV lines and wires, pitifully clinging to life in a hospital bed. I want to stay by your side like an ordinary person during my final days. I want the last thing you see of me to still be beautiful. Li Xiaoxian's large eyes stared blankly at Liang's mouth. 2 tears slid down and landed on the small square patch of beard beneath his chin. And Liang noticed her gaze seemed unfocused. He gently waved his hand in front of her eyes. Her stare didn't shift at all. In that moment, real fear gripped him. This was a late-stage symptom of brain cancer, the tumor pressing on her optic nerve, causing blindness. And Liang stared straight at Li Xiaoxian for a long time. Li Xiaoxian couldn't meet his gaze. His head felt heavy and dense, his forehead burning hot. And he almost wished it were his own eyes that had gone blind. He helped her lie down on the bed and said, I understand how you feel. Honestly, it's not as bad as it seems. Usually for diseases with no cure, miracles still happen. If you don't want to go through treatment, maybe that's when the miracle will come. We should trust God's plan, ahem. I've got something to take care of right now, so I'll step out for a bit. Don't overthink things, just rest well. I'll be back before 6. Li Xiaoxian obediently nodded and watched as Liang walked out of the room. He opened the door, closed it behind him, but remained standing inside the room. He saw her smile and follow him with her eyes all the way to the door. After it shut, her gaze stayed fixed there for a while before she reached for a photo album from the bedside table and hugged it tightly to her chest. She slowly opened it and began gently stroking the pages. It was filled with pictures from their around-the-world trip. Sunrises over deserts, storms by the seashore, every single photo showing a couple pressed close together. She lowered her face toward the album, but her eyes clearly weren't focused on anything. At that moment, Liang was absolutely certain she couldn't see. His vision blurred. He clenched his jaw hard, biting back every sound. He knew Li Xiaoxian didn't want him to know about the pain she was enduring, not because she feared pity, but because she didn't want anyone to suffer on her account. Most of all, she didn't want him to find out she'd already gone blind, not even 1 extra day, not even 1 more hour. For someone whose life was counting down, gaining just 1 more hour of beauty was the whole meaning of existence. And Liang tapped lightly twice on the door, then pulled it open and said softly, Xiaoxian, I came back for my keys. He walked to the bedside, took the keys from his pocket, placed them on the table, picked them up again, and gently embraced Li Xiaoxian. I'll be back soon, very soon, sleep now, don't wander off. After leaving the apartment building, Liang had nowhere to go. He got into his Hummer, fired up his laptop, and started frantically searching for information on brain cancer. He also messaged every neurosurgeon among his Feng Shui clients. All of them were top-tier professionals and successful elites. He pinned all his hopes on them. But each expert told him the same thing. Once brain cancer reached the stage of fainting and blindness, no surgery had proven evidence of extending life beyond 2 months. let alone guaranteeing less suffering or longer survival than without intervention. He contacted Daniel, asking him to break into core U.S. government departments to locate the best specialists. Li Xiaoqun meant a great deal to Daniel, so he immediately dropped everything he was doing and risked exposure to urgently reach out to national-level experts. After hours of effort, he replied, I forced my way in and spoke directly to several top specialists. They all said brain cancer is currently incurable, there's no precedent for a full recovery. The process involves excruciating headaches and projectile vomiting. Hearing this, Liang groaned in despair, grabbing his hair and slamming his forehead hard against the steering wheel. All these months, Li Xiaoqun had been silently enduring and hiding this agony. Her yellowish, darkened complexion and increasingly frail body flashed before his eyes. He shook his head at Daniel and pleaded, Save her. Tell me what to do, quickly tell me. All right, I won't waste words. First, this disease is terminal treatment or not, the outcome is the same. The most advanced approaches right now are cancer cell gene vaccines and electric pulse therapy to kill tumor cells. Advanced doesn't mean effective, it just might extend survival a bit. But globally, the longest recorded survival is under 3 years. You yourself escaped death once, can't you use a Feng Shui formation to fight this? There's no time to set up any Feng Shui layout. The reasons are too complicated, I can't explain now. Just tell me who to find. I need doctors, help me. Daniel shouted into the phone. No doctor can save Xiaoxun. You should go straight to Elena. She's the one researching genes day and night. Liang sped down the highway, foot jammed to the floor, desperate to reach Elena even 1 second sooner. Over the phone, Elena said she was at Jingji Mountain Bioresearch Institute, still running experiments. If Liang had an urgent matter, he could either discuss it over the call or pick her up after work. But Elena was Li Xiaoxun's last hope, and Liang refused to talk on the phone. A phone call was too easy to reject. He couldn't afford her saying no. After passing through multiple security checkpoints, Liang finally entered the lab. The atmosphere here was completely different from Matvei's development center. While the geological R&D center beneath Jingji Mountain resembled a lunar mining base, this place looked like a pristine, brightly lit hospital. Elena emerged from behind the glass door, dressed head to toe in sterile protective gear. She removed her hood and goggles, shaking loose her long golden hair, then adjusted her wire-rimmed glasses back onto her nose. And Liang noticed her tall, graceful figure, soft yet striking, and even the sterile suit couldn't hide the sensual allure radiating from her. Normally flirtatious and playful, Elena now showed none of that lightness the moment she took off her hood. Her face bore only the solemn focus unique to scientists, a kind of intellectual intensity that, coming from a stunning blonde, stirred in Liang far more deeply than any seductive dancer ever could. Staff helped Elena remove her protective suit and put on a white lab coat. Only then did she wave to Liang. Come on, let's talk over there. Your beard's grown again, why do you always trim it into a square? Letting it grow out fully would look nice too. She paused, then added casually, that last experiment was testing Malaysian mosquito toxin against white blood cell phagocytosis. This particular mosquito can bite Caucasians into fatal allergic reactions with no known antidote, but Malaysians only get a small blister and some itching. Know why? She led Liang into another lab. Seeing he remained silent, she continued, Malaysian DNA strands are crescent-shaped, while Caucasian strands are circular. The toxin only kills those with circular DNA. It reminds me of what you once said about Feng Shui, one layout might kill a person, yet bring success to someone else with a different birth chart. Same principle, right? Anyway, the point is, we could engineer a gene-targeted drug that kills only Caucasians, or, conversely, if Hitler had possessed such a gene weapon, Jews would have vanished from the earth automatically. No bullets wasted, no reputation ruined. Elena ushered in Lang into a small room containing only instruments and no staff. After closing and locking the door behind them, she leaned against it, pulled a cigarette from her pack, lit it, and took a slow drag. A man burdened with worries, go on, speak. Do you have a cure for cancer? I need your help. Please help me. Cancer? Hey. There's no cure for cancer anywhere in the world. You've come to the wrong place. All I can tell you is how to get cancer. And Lang immediately regretted saying that. It sounded like he'd accidentally started a philosophical debate. He raised his hands, made a vague gesture in the air as if embracing nothing, then clenched his fists and lowered them before continuing. It's like this, Xiaoxian has brain cancer. It's already terminal. The specialists won't operate to remove the tumor. She's dying, please, save her. Elena leaned against the doorframe, took a deep drag from her cigarette, and blew the smoke straight into Liang's face. She stared at him for a long moment. This tall Chinese young man was looking at her with desperate, pleading eyes, a scene she'd never imagined, and his plea wasn't for himself, but for his lover. I'm sorry, Elena said coldly, but I've never worked on cancer cell projects. As far as I know, there's currently no technology capable of defeating cancer cells. Try chemotherapy, it might buy her some time. And Liang lifted both hands and pressed them against the door on either side of her, trapping Elena between his arms. Elena, you're the best genetic scientist I know, only you can save Xiaoxun. Just try once. You'll find a way quickly. Xiaoxun can't wait. She could die any day, please. Liang, if trying once were enough, the world would have had a cancer drug long ago. But just now you said you could develop a gene-targeted drug that kills only a specific race. Your invention could wipe out entire populations, billions of people, and yet you can't save one person. And Lang grew more and more agitated, until by the end he was shouting right into Elena's face. Elena turned her head aside, avoiding his gaze. Killing is far easier than saving. Withering a rose takes 10,000 times less effort than extending its bloom. At its core, the genes God created all lead to one outcome. The DNA strands break, scatter, and degrade in countless ways. Even when you run for longevity, the vibrations from running shorten your telomeres. Death is the inevitable fate of all living things. Killing is simple. You're just pushing someone who's already walking toward death a little faster. Saving someone means pulling them back from the brink. And Liang rudely cut her off. If it's so easy, why do we even need scientists like you? Your job is to protect life, not help God kill us. Seeing how unstable Liang had become, Elena gently pushed his hands away, stepped into the room, brewed 2 cups of coffee, handed one to him and said, I understand how you feel. But I don't work in medical genetics. Bioengineering is vast. Agriculture, industry, pharmaceuticals, military tech, each has its own specialized fields. What caused her tumor? The apostles implanted a brainwave control chip in her head. In about 5 or 6 years, it'll kill her with brain cancer. Daniel said it's like having a cell phone permanently installed in your brain. The constant radiation triggers cancer cells. At this, Elena's interest seemed piqued. She paused thoughtfully and said, that's sophisticated technology, but it must cause severe damage to the brain. I've heard of military research where they implant chips into homing pigeons to control their flight for espionage. I never imagined the apostles would use humans. Seeing Elena respond, and Liang seized the moment and pressed further. I'm sorry, Dr. Elena. I truly believe you can help Seoxian. Isn't this also your scientific achievement? Developing a cancer-targeting gene therapy would be far more meaningful than creating ethnic eradication weapons. The former would earn you the world's respect. It would be the most meaningful thing you've ever done. Not some hellbound project. My funding and research directives come from my investors. If I were working for a pharmaceutical company, I'd absolutely pursue the noble cause you just described. But you're a Feng Shui master, don't you have any methods? And Liang felt dizzy at Elena's words. Daniel had asked him the same question before. What could a Feng Shui master possibly do in a situation like this? From the very day he began studying metaphysics, his mother and Yi had told him, heaven's decree cannot be altered, great calamities cannot be escaped. If metaphysicians calculate the tide of world events, they never defy heaven. Doing so would only bring disaster upon themselves. If someone is destined to face a great tribulation, no Feng Shui arrangement can simply rewrite karma. When Liang himself faced death at 30, it took Yi 30 years of meticulous planning, every technique in Feng Shui, and raising him to be both scholarly and martially skilled. Only then did he narrowly escape. Yet Yi had also said, heavenly justice is fair. To preserve life, something else must be lost. What would be lost? No one knew. If he'd known Xiaoshen's death date in advance, Liang would have used every esoteric skill he possessed to try changing it. But he'd only just learned the news, and without verifying her true birth chart, he couldn't determine her favorable or unfavorable elements. Feng Shui layouts and destiny charts are intricately linked. One cannot function without the other. In this state, he had no starting point. Even if he somehow arranged a perfect Feng Shui configuration, he'd still need a surgeon to perform the operation. Feng Shui doesn't automatically manifest desired outcomes. The best Feng Shui is merely a force, not an action. Without concrete action to channel and express that force, a Feng Shui setup suspended in vacuum offers no real help. Someone who arranges a wealth-attracting layout and then just sits inside waiting to get rich will never become wealthy. They must take action. Just then, Liang remembered something else. He set down his coffee cup and asked, last time you said both Matevi and I had our genes altered. Are our changes identical in type and degree? The nature of the changes differs, but the extent is similar, especially at the longevity gene loci. Barring accidental death, you could both live to be very old.